These are the grounds of Sydney's oldest surviving school, Sydney Grammar, and it sure has some history. In 1.5 centuries, it's turned out 2 Prime Ministers, 7 High Court judges, 4 Test cricketers and 3 members of the Chaser team. Even the great bard Banjo Patterson was once a student here. Volumes have been written about him and indeed most of the other famous people who walked these hallowed halls. However, it was the man who started it all who may well be the most interesting of the lot. Yet for 150 years, his story was almost forgotten. His name was Bland, yet his life was anything but. Our story starts in 1813 with a duel. The loser died, and the winner, well, he was convicted of murder and transported to Australia. His name was William Bland, and he was a fair dinkum hothead. And even after he arrived in Sydney, he got in trouble again. This time he was sent to jail for writing cheeky poems about Governor Macquarie. But in an incredible life, he overcame his convict origins to become a groundbreaking surgeon, politician, philanthropist, and of course, founder of the school that became Sydney Grammar. And at the State Library of New South Wales, I discover he even turned his hand to inventing. This may look like a Jules Vernian creation, but it's actually the work of William Bland, and what you're looking at is Australia's first aeronautical design, the Atmotic ship. And fundamentally, it's a gas-filled balloon, steered and operated in the same way you would manipulate a sailing ship. So if you have a look at it, it has all these sort of nautical connections here, blocks and tackle and a rudder, and there are sails and probably an anchor. But the great thing about this was that Bland believed that the Atmotic ship could travel from London to Australia in a week. Well, I wouldn't bank on it, and it doesn't matter whether it works or not. What this drawing proves is what a visionary Bland was. You'd think we'd all be learning about such a colourful character at school, but hardly anyone's ever heard of him. In fact, the only reason I'm talking about him today is because of this. It's a tiny little box. When I open it up, it reveals Australia's earliest known photograph. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you William Bland. And this portrait was found completely by chance.
The field librarian had asked me to come down to look at a trunk full of photographs. There was nothing of great interest amongst it until we reached the bottom. There was this little box. The instant I saw it, I knew that this was what's called a daguerreotype, an early form of photograph, and it was made probably before 1845. The next thing was, I knew amongst my research there was a reference to this picture, and I went home, rummaged through the newspapers and found on the 14th of January 1845 this very daguerreotype was mentioned. Now that date is 3 months earlier than any other photograph we'd had, so we knew this was the earliest. So it was Australia's oldest known photograph.
Wow. So what is an ex-convict doing in the frame of Australia's first photograph?
Ah, Mr. Bland, I just have...
Well, in 1845, George Goodman, Australia's first photographer, was looking for a subject to demonstrate a newfangled contraption called the daguerreotype portrait system.
Perfect, sir, perfect.
He needed a colourful local identity to grab the public's attention. So who better than the legendary William Bland?
3. Very good, sir. And there we have it.
He posed for the photo and the rest was hidden history until now. William Bland should have been a name to be celebrated and the sort of face you might see on a $100 bill. But instead, he died a pauper and faded from the pages of Australian history.
He was a very angry person. He didn't suffer fools gladly. So consequently, he didn't have many friends. And I guess if you're going to be famous, you need someone to champion you, to write about you and say how wonderful you were. He actually has a name that isn't very sort of inspiring as well.
No, you don't feel like you want to go and visit Blandville, do you? I'm looking forward to going home to Blandville.
No.
Alan's discovery of Australia's earliest photograph has also unearthed the remarkable story of one of our most controversial and colourful unsung heroes.
Hello time travellers, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, leave a comment below and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Until next time, remember, history doesn't repeat, but it certainly echoes.